Hey guys, my name is Bryan Jarrett, and I am the lead pastor at Northplace Church in Sachse, Texas, which is a northern suburb of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My wife and I also founded and direct a ranch right outside of Dallas called Lonesome Dove Ranch, which specifically targets exploited children, most of which are in the foster system here in the state of Texas, and we serve them in their deepest level of brokenness and get to be a part of facilitating the adoption process for many of them. It's an incredible journey, and part of the reason we're able to do that is because of the orphan care ministry that is in our church. These are two separate charities that I lead, but their hearts are very complementary to each other. Let me back up a little bit and just explain to you. Northplace is almost a 100-year-old church. We turned 98 this year. Been a traditional denominational church for years. I've been the lead pastor here for about 14 years, and would say we've intentionally been cultural architects here with a lot of vision in embedding a lot of what we believe is gospel-centered heart in alignment with the heart of God. One of the things that God has challenged us to do as a congregation, we have phrases here that we invite the uninvited. We serve forgotten people in forgotten places. A lot of that is born out of my own story. I was never in the system, but my father left our family, abandoned us, was married to another woman at the same time he was married to my mom, living a lie between both families. So I grew up in the height of dysfunction. Other relatives took me in, but I bounced around, changed schools 6 or 7 times before I graduated high school. It was just a horrid existence as a child. I got into substance abuse and all that to try to numb the pain. I dealt with childhood sexual abuse and had to overcome that. So I have a lot of identity with the hearts of the kids that we serve at the ranch and many of the orphaned children in the system here in the U.S. And so our ministry as pastors and at the ranch is born out of our own personal pain. Now, Haley's family on the other side of that, they were the adoptive families. They had foster kids come through their home, so Haley had kids in her house her whole life that were not biological to her. And so she had this complementary vision. When we started dating, it was incredible, my pain and the solution of her family, and how that has been woven into the heartbeat of our church. And so we go after the marginalized and the disenfranchised. And so our heart for the orphan is simply a reflection of our heart. We have campuses in the prison and so many things that we do that fit the marginalized, the disenfranchised, special needs ministry. And the orphan is one of those major commitments that we have. We have a heart for family here. That makes all of this fit because we invite the estranged to the table. It's theological for us, and it just makes sense. It's the gospel to us, and it just makes sense. There's a lot of churches that talk about converting and conversion, and that word is used one time in the Bible, and I realize in the right context we can talk about conversion. But when I talk about conversion or I speak about it in a conversation, it feels like I am back in the Crusades of the Roman Empire, and I am converting pagans. I'm forcibly converting a pagan into faith. And that's not at all the model of Jesus. It's not the heart of the gospel. The heart of the gospel is to extend the Father's table and invite people to be part of a family. So we don't have a converting culture and going out and coercing souls to become a part of our religious persuasion. We are people that have been by grace adopted into the Father's family. That is the gospel message. And now it is our goal to extend the Father's table to other people who don't realize they're missing out on being a part of the family. That way of doing church and that culture and understanding God's heart for the widow and the orphan, understanding the message of the gospel creates a theological culture for our whole church to be family. We bring in the outsider. We want the ones everybody else throws away. So whether they're the poor, the homeless, the special needs child, the orphan, the whole culture of orphan ministry here is born on a theological understanding of the gospel. So it's one of the many ways we go after forgotten people and forgotten places and invite the uninvited. I was a youth evangelist for years, and on Wednesday nights of those services all over this country, I would tell my story of sexual abuse and the abandonment and dysfunction of my family life, and I would often give an altar call at the end of that for broken-hearted teenage students. If there was 1,000 kids in the room, it was not uncommon for 300 to 400, sometimes half of those students, to come forward. Now, they cannot publicly declare in that moment, most of you watching this know the reporting processes, that they cannot publicly declare in that moment that they've been sexually abused, or will be on the phone with 500 caseworkers immediately reporting the abuse. But in my gut, I knew. And so from the time I was 19, 20 years old, preaching in those camps, I knew I had to do something with my life that would make an impact with those kids. And so we started about a decade ago out of our church running camps that engaged the brokenness. I wanted it in a camp environment. Our lives have been changed by youth camp. And so we started targeting kids in the camp environment. Now, the unintended consequence of that was I just wanted to follow through on a promise I made to God on Wednesday nights. What I wept with those kids in the altars for all of those years, God, I'll do more than this, because one Wednesday night of a youth camp isn't enough. I needed to make good on that promise, and so we launched camps that we've been running now for a decade that we now host at the ranch. I had no idea as a pastor of a local church that the volunteers that would then serve in those camps, that their hearts would be pricked, and they were like, 1 week is not enough. And so it was out of that initiative that started as just 1 week of our year, now it's multiple weeks in the summer of our year, that so many of our people were made aware of the plight of the orphan, and God used it in the same way He opens the heart of students to go to the global mission. He opened the heart of our congregation to see the plight of the orphan and realize we are called to do something about it. And it created this, on this theological base of reaching the disenfranchised and inviting the uninvited, and then giving the congregation an opportunity to literally engage the orphan, work alongside them, and come out of that with this desire to do more. Crystal Leakty and Jeff Leakty direct our missions program at Northplace Church. They have served as elders here on and off the entire time that I've been a pastor here. Incredible people that have been an adoptive family. And so I asked them, would you help me lead an initiative? And so Crystal championed that cause for us, and we have literally trained hundreds of people in our church. And now other churches, the Catholic churches in our area, are coming to us, which is a little different than it's been in years past, to help them in the training and the aiding of engaging the orphan epidemic in our region. And Crystal's been the champion for that. And part of what makes it happen is having a correct understanding of theology, and then being intentional about creating culture. But then you have to have the right people to champion it. It has to be the driving passion of the senior leader's heart. But then you have to have people underneath that senior leader that will take that vision and champion. The most important thing a pastor or the leader of any organization can do is to create culture, cultivate culture, and contend, fight for that culture. And our family heart here at Northplace goes beyond orphan ministry. But our orphan ministry naturally flows out of our heart for family. It flows out of our understanding of theology. We have created that culture, we have cultivated that culture, and we will fight for that culture. And that means fighting for the orphan. And Crystal, who is going to come up right after me now, is going to share some very practical insights. She's one of our warriors and champions that help us in this battle. She's lived it as a parent, given her home, her marriage, her family, her time to this. And now she's giving her retirement years as an educator, who is now giving her retirement years to champion this initiative. And I know she's honored to serve you today, as I have been. Crystal, take it away.